All right, you guys can't see me. For some reason, my camera's not working, but I'm going to go over lesson 4 in chapter 9, which talks mainly about Caesar Augustus, who was after Julius Caesar and was related to Julius Caesar. He was formerly known as Octavian. So this is just a quick intro video, some of the art and different architecture and inventions that Rome was known for. Soldiers, military, sculptures, more artwork, arches and vaulted ceilings, Pantheon. All right, and then some more arches, aqueducts, Colosseum. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So, we're gonna talk mainly about Pax Romana, starting with Augustus. It was a time of peace for Rome and prosperity. In this image, we have a building that Julius Caesar originally had planned to build. It says, Julius Caesar planned to build a bigger, grander theater than Pompey's after defeating him in the struggle of Rome. He only got as far as seizing land and tearing down buildings to make room for the project before his murder in 44 BCE. In 22 BCE, however, Augustus restarted the project. So Augustus rebuilt many of Rome's buildings in marble to reflect the city's grandeur, meaning grandeur means like, that it's fancy, the economy's doing well, so it reflects that Rome has a lot of money and can afford to have nice things. The theater of Marcellus was formally dedicated in 13 BCE and named in honor of Augustus's deceased nephew. The building was covered in white limestone. It is estimated that it could seat between 11,000 and 40,000 people, and was the largest theater ever built in Rome. Augustus filled its entrance with the finest art and sculptures, including the famous Medici Venus statue. To help improve the sound quality in the theater, brass or bronze bowls were fixed to the walls behind the seats and pointed toward the center stage. The Roman Colosseum opened in 80 CE. It was begun by the Emperor Vespasian and completed by his son Titus. Its opening ceremony lasted 100 days. During this time, great contests and even a recreation of a sea battle took place, for which the entire arena was filled with water. Wow, the massive stadium could hold about 50,000 people. Seats at the top were for plebeians, and seats near the stage were reserved for the patricians. During the Middle Ages, pieces of the Colosseum were used to build the Barberini Palace and other structures. It was almost torn down in the 1500s, but was saved as a sacred monument by Pope Benedict in the 1700s. Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius. So we learned a bit about this in science. Talked about it erupting. Frozen in time, although the tragic eruption of Mount Vesuvius ended thousands of lives, the ash that buried Pompeii served as a sort of mummification for the entire city. The eruption of 79 CE, which buried the town in choking ash, actually captured a moment in time, not unlike an eerie snapshot of a terrible scene. Under the ash, everything remained as it was at the exact moment of the eruption. Artwork was preserved, buildings were preserved, several important clues were left behind. These clues give us a rare view into the past. Still a threat. Vesuvius, shown here looming over the ruins of ancient Pompeii, is the only active volcano on the mainland of Europe and has caused some of the continent's largest and most spectacular eruptions. It is situated near the major Italian city of Naples and still poses a threat to the hundreds of thousands of people living in the region. Prior to the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 CE, there had been weeks of tremors, small earthquakes, but the town, with a population of 20,000, was taken by complete surprise by the catastrophe. Pliny the Younger who described the eruption, wrote, "A dense black cloud was coming up behind us, spreading over the earth like a flood." Buried treasure. For 1,500 years after the virtual disappearance of Pompeii, people largely seem to have forgotten about the buried town. Some frescoes were excavated in the 1590s, but strangely, the site was covered over again. It was not until the 1700s that people began to realize just what a treasure trove lay buried there. Excavation efforts got underway, revealing spectacular works of art that were remarkably well preserved. Excavations would continue until modern times. Excavation methods improved over time. The image here shows a major fresco work with amazingly vivid colors, considering it had been buried under ash for 2 millennia. Many scenes depicting daily life are on display throughout the town. People's homes appear eerily just as they did 2,000 years ago, in some cases with dishes and drinking vessels still set out on dinner tables as if preparing for a meal. Today, Pompeii is one of Italy's most popular tourist attractions. All right, so let's talk about rule of Augustus. So he brought an era called the Pax Romana, which lasted nearly 200 years. So 200 years of peace and prosperity. The Roman Empire was divided into provinces, each with its own governor. So kind of like how the United States has states, and each state had a governor. And borders were established along natural physical features. So he appointed people to govern smaller groups of people, which allowed more, I guess you can say, control over what was happening in different areas. Augustus created a permanent army of 150,000 soldiers, developed programs to help the poor people, such as feeding them, and reformed Rome's legal system and tax laws. After Augustus's death, some emperors governed the Roman Empire effectively, but others were cruel, such as Nero. All right. Trade routes of the Roman Empire. Trade goods flowed to Rome and kept the city well supplied. So here you can see we have some of the traded goods are glassware, grain, horses, marble, metals, olive oil, perfumes, silk, spices, timber, wild animals, wine, and wool. And so all the green represents the Roman Empire. The red are all the different routes. So here would be from China. So you'd probably get things like silk, maybe spices coming from China, maybe some metals. And then here we have a trade route from India, and you can see the symbols here. So like, China has spices and silk. Over here you have wild animals and glassware. So it's kind of cool to see where all the different things were coming to, and they're all kind of centered around Rome, coming to Rome. The 5 good emperors. So there were 5 good emperors during this period of Pax Romana, and we have Nerva, Trajan, I don't know if I'm saying these right, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. And you can click on each of these guys. So Nerva was chosen as emperor by the Senate when Domitian was assassinated in an effort to avoid civil war. Nerva was 66 years old, however, and only ruled for 2 years before his death. He ended many of the harsh policies adopted by Domitian. He also began the practice of choosing a successor rather than allowing rule to pass automatically to the nearest male relative. Nerva adopted Trajan, who became the next emperor. Trajan was a natural-born soldier who conquered modern-day Romania. Dacia, as it was called, had rich gold deposits, and so the conquest greatly benefited Rome. Trajan's military campaigns expanded Roman territory to its greatest size. His accomplishments were engraved on a stone pillar in Rome, winding around it from top to bottom. It's called Trajan's Column, and it still exists today. Hadrian was a man of intense curiosity about the world. He spent much of his time as emperor traveling to places far away as Britain, North Africa, and Egypt. Antoninus is often called Antoninus Pius because he was a very pious or religious man. He supported laws to help orphans and kept peace in the empire. Some people think he never traveled outside of Italy. And then we have Marcus Aurelius. He began his reign with his brother Lucius Verus, but Lucius died after only 8 years. A series of wars broke out early in their reign, and the empire was also threatened by a deadly plague that devastated much of Italy. He was a lover of philosophy and law, and he put his responsibilities as emperor above all else. Okay, let's go to the next page. Aqueducts. Aqueducts are ways of transporting water. The word aqueduct is formed by two roots, aqua, water, and duct, to lead. Aqueducts are channels that carry water from higher ground to places, such as large cities on lower ground. They are built to flow downhill to use gravity to move the water. Aqueducts are still used to move water today. One major modern aqueduct brings fresh water to Los Angeles in the United States. Ancient Roman aqueducts were major feats of engineering. The aqueduct shown here is the Pont du Gard in modern-day southern France, once a part of Roman Empire. The 3 rows of arches tower at 150 feet. Built by the son-in-law of Emperor Augustus in about 19 BCE, it spans the Gard River. The Roman peace. After Nero, so we kind of skipped over Nero. Nero was a cruel, harsh emperor, and that's basically what he's famous for, being brutal, killed many people. Among the people was his mother and his 2 wives. So he was also sentenced to treason by the Senate. So after his death, violent rebellion erupted in the Roman Empire. Vespasian became emperor in AD 69 and crushed opposition to Roman rule. A series of 5 good emperors helped Rome grow and prosper through the public works program and social and economic reforms. The Roman Empire grew to be one of the largest empires in history. By 212 CE, every free person in the empire was considered a Roman citizen. A network of paved roads was built throughout the empire. Trade flourished, and agriculture became a major part of Rome's economy. So paved roads was one of the big contributions that the Romans, they had concrete and paved roads, aqueducts. All right, so this here is Antoninus Pius, shown here, was the 4th of the 5 good emperors of Rome.